Welcome to Lab 4. What we're doing today in Lab 4 is we're making the bottom part of the lower leg for the character, and we're going to position it about below the upper leg. What we're doing in this lab is we're going to make a lower leg for the character and put it underneath the upper leg. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to open up our Lab 3 version of our walking character or walking cycle, whatever you saved it as. And we're going to save it with a new version in the Project 5 folder with the name Walk Cycle Lab 4. If you don't remember how, review the steps from the beginning of Lab 2 and make sure you save it with Lab 4 in the file name. So we're going to do that. File, Save As. So I'm going to click this. I'm going to change that from 3 to 4. I'm going to make sure that my selection tool is selected. Then I click my Edit Symbols button, and I'm going to click Walk Cycle. Every time we drag a character or something from the library to the stage, we create another instance of whatever it is that we drag to the stage. That's what they're called. They're called instances. So you can convert a drawing to a symbol and it's added to the project's library. You can put as many instances of that symbol on your movie as you want. The thing is, with instances, sometimes it can get confusing unless you name the instances. So in this case, what you do a lot of times is you name an instance. You just type an instance name. You give them all their particular instance. Like, for example, when we did the red and blue plane, we had two different planes, but we could have had two different planes and just name the instances. So how do I name the instance? Well, first I just click on my first frame of my right leg, then make sure that that is clicked. I click there, and I click that. Now I can name this instance upper leg. So now we're going to make a second instance of the leg. So I'm going to click over here to the library. I'm going to grab a leg. I'm going to just drag it to the stage. Don't connect it to the other symbol. So now I want to name the second instance lower leg. Make sure it's selected. Then I go into Properties, and I call this instance lower leg. So now I have an upper leg and a lower leg. Click Enter. The thing about instances is that when you change one thing about an instance, it normally changes all the instances. So you can go into an individual instance and change a particular thing like color or something like that. You can go into the Properties panel to do it, and that'll change the color of the instance or a particular property. Okay, when you change an instance, one of the things you change is a tint. And all it does is it changes the shade of a color. If you want to make it red and it's green, you can set it at 0 amount at 0%, and the original color is still not going to change. But if you set it at 100%, it's going to be completely the other color. So if I want to change it from red to green, it'll be completely green at 100%. If I set it at about 50%, the final color is about halfway between red and green, which would probably be a gray. So now in order to change the lower leg's color without changing the upper leg's color too, I need to change the color here on the Properties panel. Not here, not in the Tools panel, in the Property panel. So what I do is I click down Color Effect and Style, and I go for Tint. And what I choose is 100% tint, and I choose orange here. So I go and find me an orange. So now my lower leg is orange and my upper leg is red. So let me zoom in. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the lower leg to the upper leg, and I make sure the ball completely covers the other ball. Here we go. So now we're done with lab 4. And all I do is go File, Save. Make sure I've done this right. Welcome to lab 5. In lab 5, what we're doing is we're attaching the upper and lower leg bones so they're going to move together. Then we're going to draw a foot and attach it to the leg. Fun stuff. Now we save this as walking character, walking cycle, lab 4. So File, Save As. I just changed that 4 into a 5 for lab 5. Click Save. We're going to join our parts together using bones. Now what bones do to an object, it helps it move together as a unit, like the bones do in your body. So you add bones. You think about a way an arm or a leg moves, it isn't caused by one bone doing everything all by itself. It's a system, right? It works together. A group of connected bones that move and work together is called an armature in Flash. When one bone in the armature moves, the other connected bones automatically move with it in a natural way. So that's how we're going to use a bone tool in this project. Now I'm going to make that armature. In the Tools panel, I click the Selection tool. I click on the white space on this stage to unselect everything. Now I click the Bone tool. It's right here. Now I drag from the hip bone to the knee. Now you notice I get something called an armature right here. So now I go select the Selection tool. I click on the white space to unselect everything, and the leg looks just the same as it did before. You won't be able to see the bone. Okay, when we made our armature, what we automatically created was called a pose layer. A pose layer, you can put different poses for your armature. Right now there's only one keyframe, so there's only one pose, but we're going to add different poses for the leg later. So so both these symbols, the upper and lower leg, have moved onto the armature layer. Well, you can test out your armature. Make sure your Selection tool is selected, and try swinging. See how what that looks like if you move the lower leg joint. Now try moving it from the center and see how this affects us. There you go. Next thing we're going to do is show you how to make round corners on your rectangles. There's nothing on the right leg layer, so I'm going to draw my foot there. I'm just going to click there, and I'm going to click on my rectangle tool, and I'm going to use a yellow color, dark yellow. There we go. And I'm going to round it at 15. So I'm going to click 15 in here. So now I'm going to come here and draw my layer. So now I'm going to draw my foot right here. I want to make it big enough that's going to cover that. There we go. So now I'm going to make that foot into a symbol. So make sure I've got this selected, the Selection tool. Okay, then I click in this frame here to select the foot, and I click Modify, Convert to a Symbol, and I call this foot. I click OK. So to position the foot now, I make sure this layer here is above the armature layer. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to cover the joint, make sure the toes point to the right. Now I'm going to add the foot to the armature. So I click in the white space, make sure you got that selection tool selected. And now I click my bone tool and I drag from the knee all the way to the ankle. And I click once again out into the white space. Now I can try out my armature once again to see how it works. I click on my selection tool, and now I can move it, do Control Z, bring it back. I can move the foot. I can do a Control Z and bring it back to normal. So now I don't need that right leg layer anymore, so I click in the right leg layer and I click the delete key here and it's gone. So before we pose the leg in Lab 6, let's see how this movie looks. So you see it doesn't look very natural yet, but there you go, you've got your first leg. Before we move to Lab 6, make sure that you've straightened your leg back out with Control Z's. And then you just save your work. Go File, Save. And you're ready for Lab 6. Welcome to Lab 6. In Lab 6, we're moving that right leg. We're going to have it swing back and forth as our character walks. Now we're in Lab 6. We're going to save it as Lab 6. So I'm going to go File, Save As. So I'm going to change that L5 to L6. And click Save. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we're in the walk cycle here. If yours doesn't look like this, what you do is you click this Edit Symbols button and make sure you click into the walk cycle so you're editing this symbol. So when you make a movement, you got to think about what happens when the body moves. What happens? When one leg steps forward, the body moves forward. So the other leg is behind the body. So what you're going to do is you're going to pose your character's legs so that one leg is going to be behind the body when the other leg is in front. This way they're going to swing naturally like a walking motion. Now if I want to line stuff up on the stage, I can use rulers and guides. You can find rulers, or you can place them at the top and you can place them at the left of your stage. You can drag them onto your stage, and what they become is a blue line like this, right? That's a guide. It's just a straight line on the stage when you click and drag that ruler onto the stage. It helps you line up stuff, but it's not like a motion line. No, it doesn't control any motion at all. It's just a guideline for you. So what do you need a guideline for? We want to make sure that the guideline represents the ground so your leg doesn't go underground. So now we're going to add a guideline. We're going to go View. We're going to click Guides. Rather Rulers. And now I'm going to drag my top ruler down until I get a line right under the foot. Now I'm going to go View, Guides, then Lock Guide, so I don't accidentally move it. Now we've already identified our frames on the body layer. Look at the different poses we're going to put the leg in for each of this frame. Now I wanted you to be aware of something. I had to correct a mistake that I made. You can see now that this has a timeline on it where it didn't previously. Let me show you what I had done. I had originally put built the timeline on the main character here. Okay, So I'm going to go back into my walk cycle here. And now I'm going to add keyframes at 6, 12, and 18. So I'm going to go function F6, add one in the same spots. Function F6, function F6, or for those of you guys who rather do the long route, you go insert, timeline, keyframe. Okay. So when we do, we step forward, we pose the leg like this, and remember the leg also comes down, so you're going to have to just pull this down and pull this a little forward to give the hip a little swing. So now I'm going to click in frame 6 on the armature level. Make sure that the free transform tool is, this might let you move the entire leg at the same time. If there isn't a black box around the entire leg, click in the white space on the stage and click frame 6 again to get the black box around the entire leg. Click and drag the leg down so the hip joint is at the bottom center of the body. Let me make this a little bigger. Okay, so let's move this down a little bit. Want the whole forehead arrow. Here we go, move that so it's forward a little bit. Move it down. If it comes apart, just do a Control Z and fix it. I'm going to hit the selection tool up here, and I'm going to take the lower part of the leg and move it forward a little bit so I get it flat on the ground. Here we go. We don't want to go underground with the leg. There we go. Now I do a Control Enter to see what it looks like. So there you go. So all I did was delete. I didn't delete anything on this layer. I just left it the same. But what I did here in the walk cycle, I just added the added the motion tween, and then added the keyframes, and everything else was there, so I didn't have to change anything. Now to get the right look, the next thing we have to do is go back to the first frame and bend that knee and lift it so it's naturally posed. So now we're going to change to frame 1. Make sure I have the selection tool selected, and click in the middle of the upper leg right here and drag it to the right until it's at a diagonal level like that. Okay, so click in the middle of the lower leg and drag it to the left until it's at a diagonal level. So left is zigzag directly under the body. So let's test the movie. So on frame 12, the leg straightens out. That's the next step in the stride, but you don't have to do anything because that's the position it's already in. Now in frame 18, of course, we're going to swing the leg back. So when one leg takes a step forward, the body moves forward too. So the other leg naturally swings behind the body. So, later on we're going to do the left leg, of course. So we're going to pose the body in this position on frame 18. Okay, so now we skip to frame 18. And we're going to make sure that we're in the armature layer. Okay, I'm going to click the free transform tool so I get the box around my leg. Now this is going to let me move the entire leg at the same time. So I get my little four-headed arrow. Oops. Well, I do have to bring it back a little bit. If the joint becomes loose, just do a Control Z and try it again, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab the selection tool. Now I'm going to bring this back a little bit here. There we go. So it touches the ground almost, but it's has that little swing to it, the little backswing. Now if your foot ends up under the guideline, just adjust the pose until it's above the guideline. So now we're going to test the movie. So there you go. Okay, the reason the movie is jerky is because your pose on frame 24 needs to be the same as on frame 1. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Control key, hit frame 1. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to click Copy Pose. Now I'm going to hold down the Control key and hit frame 24, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to click Paste Pose. Now it's going to be bent just like it is on frame 24 on frame 1. So I'm going to go Control Enter, and so now you don't have any jerkiness on that movie. Okay, make sure everything's happening properly, that your joints aren't coming loose. If this happens, just go Control Z, Control Z, Control Z till you get to the place where they're together. And you know, if it's still a big problem, just go back to lab 5, the lab 5 that you saved, and just do the lab again.